legends in the making. Scoreboard pressure, hearts beat breaking, sideline chatter, debates run deep, but the grind don't stop, no time for sleep.
Hello.
Did you see that
Let
game?
me be the first to welcome you to the very first episode of Did You See That Game, where we give you a quick summary of the outstanding sports world's games and events. Let me also tell you that I am excited. New NFL season and a brand new podcast. I'm Anthony.
And I'm Sharfan, and I too am excited. And oh my goodness, Anthony, did we just witness one of the craziest season openers or what?
Before we dive into this absolute chaos of a game, let's set the stage here. We're looking at an NFC East division that everyone's calling the most competitive in the NFL right now. You've got the defending champion Eagles trying to prove last year wasn't a fluke, the Cowboys with their new coaching staff under Brian Schottenheimer, the Giants with all their offseason moves, and don't sleep on Washington either. This division is going to be a bloodbath all season long. Yo, I don't even know where to start with this Eagles-Cowboys game. Like, before the game even started, we had drama. Jalen Carter, he gets ejected for spitting at Dak Prescott before the opening snap.
I was like, wait, what just happened? I mean, we've seen trash talk, we've seen shugging matches, but spitting, that's a new level of disrespect right there. And you know what, Anthony? Let's talk about the psychological impact of that ejection. I mean, Jalen Carter is supposed to be their anchor on that defensive line, their emotional leader. When you lose a guy like that before the game even starts, it's not just about losing talent, it's about the mental game. How do you refocus your team after something like that? Credit to Nick Sirianni and that coaching staff for keeping the team composed, because that could have derailed their whole game plan right from the start.
Right? And you know what, though? Losing Carter, I thought that was going to hurt the Eagles' defense big time, but they actually held it together pretty well. But let's talk about this game, because it was back and forth from the jump.
Oh my gosh, yes. So the Cowboys strike first, right? Javonte Williams punches it in from 1 yard out, and I'm thinking, okay, here we go. Dallas is going to control this game early.
But then Jalen Hurts is like, hold my beer. 4-yard rushing touchdown, boom, just powers it in. And that's when I was like, oh, this is going to be one of those games where nobody wants to play defense.
Exactly. And then Williams, he wasn't done, gets another rushing TD in the second quarter. And I'm like, who is this guy? I mean, we knew he could run, but 2 touchdowns already?
Williams was having himself a day, for real. But then we get to see what we all came for, Saquon Barkley. And man, that 10-yard touchdown run.
I got chills, like seeing Saquon in midnight green scoring his first touchdown of the year. That was special. And you know what? The crowd went absolutely nuts.
You know what I loved about that Saquon touchdown, though? Let's break down that play for a second. They ran him on a draw play, and you could see him reading the defense perfectly. The Cowboys linebackers bit hard on the play action, and Saquon just found that gap between the tackles. But what really impressed me was his acceleration through the hole. That burst of speed that made him so dangerous in New York, it's still there. And then he lowered his shoulder at the goal line instead of trying to bounce outside. That's veteran football IQ right there. Oh, they lost their minds. And don't forget, Hurts got his second rushing touchdown too, 8 yards this time. So by halftime, we're looking at 21-20 Eagles. But then, Mother Nature decided to get involved.
Oh my God, the lightning delay, 63 minutes. I was sitting there like, are we going to finish this game today? And you know what's crazy? When they came back, it was like a completely different game.
Yeah, Jake Elliott hits that 58-yard field goal to make it 24-20, and then nothing. Like, both defenses just locked down. It was weird, like the weather delay reset both teams or something.
Can we also talk about how that lightning delay completely changed the rhythm of this game? Because both offenses were rolling in the first half. We had 41 points combined, but after that 63-minute break, it was like watching a completely different sport. The defenses tightened up, the quarterbacks looked out of sync, even the crowd energy changed. It's like both teams came out of that locker room playing scared to make mistakes instead of playing to win. Weather delays are such an underrated factor in football, and this game was the perfect example of how they can flip everything upside down. And can we talk about CeeDee Lamb for a second? Because this guy, 110 receiving yards, he was absolutely cooking the Eagles secondary, but then
The drops, oh man, the drops killed them. Like, CeeDee had some crucial drops at the worst possible times. You can't do that in a game this tight, especially against a division rival.
And then we get to the end of the game, and it all comes down to 4th and 3, under 2 minutes left. Dak Prescott drops back, and the pass falls incomplete. Game over.
You know what, though? I felt bad for Dak a little bit. New coach and Brian Schottenheimer, missing Micah Parsons on defense. That's a lot of changes to deal with in your first game.
Oh, the Micah Parsons thing was huge. Like, you could see how much they missed him out there. The Eagles' offensive line had way more time than they should have had, especially for Hurts to do his rushing thing.
Exactly. And speaking of Hurts, 2 rushing touchdowns, over 60 rushing yards. The man was running like his life depended on it. You could tell he wanted to make a statement in this opener.
For sure. And you know what I loved about this game? It had everything. Drama before kickoff, back and forth scoring, weather delays, clutch plays, dropped passes. Like, this is why we love football.
All right, let's talk fantasy football for a minute because I know half our listeners are probably freaking out right now. If you drafted Saquon Barkley, congratulations. You're feeling pretty good about that pick right now. 1 touchdown, solid carries, and he looked comfortable in the new Eagles offense. Jalen Hurts fantasy owners, you're eating good too. 2 rushing touchdowns. That's exactly why you drafted him in the first few rounds.
But if you were banking on CeeDee Lamb, you're probably pulling your hair out. 110 receiving yards sounds great until you factor in those crucial drops. And Dak Prescott, man, if you started him in your fantasy lineup, you're probably already looking at the waiver wire. I mean, he balled out, but without the big numbers. Javonte Williams, though, now there's a sneaky pickup if he's still available. 2 touchdowns in week 1. That's not nothing, especially with how unpredictable running backs can be this season.
This is exactly why we love NFC East football. Eagles and Cowboys never disappoint when they get together. 24-20 final score, but it felt like so much more than that.
I mean, just think about it. We had Williams with 2 touchdowns for Dallas, Hurts with 2 rushing scores, Saquon's touchdown. There were so many storylines packed into one game.
And you know what? This sets up the whole season for both teams. The Eagles showed they can overcome adversity, losing Carter early, and dealing with the weather delay. That's championship-level resilience right there.
Yeah, and for the Cowboys, man, I don't know anyone that thought this game was going to be this close. Prescott shined in Schottenheimer's first game. It's obvious they're missing Micah Parsons. Those crucial drops from Lamb, they've got work to do.
But hey, it's week 1. Anything can happen. That's the beauty of the NFL. But wow, what a way to kick off the season. Eagles 24, Cowboys 20, and we're already counting down the days until they meet again. You know what? Before we wrap up, let's talk about what's coming up in week 2, because there are some mouth-watering matchups on the schedule. The Eagles are heading to Kansas City to face the Chiefs, and that's going to be interesting, not just because it's the Super Bowl rematch, but also because Kansas City's got some new pieces that could really challenge this Eagles. Meanwhile, Dallas is hosting the Giants. I really think they can build on this performance.
And don't forget, we've got some absolute blockbuster games this weekend, too. Chiefs and Chargers and, I think, Brazil? The Ravens are taking on the Bills, and after what Lamar did in the playoffs, I'm expecting fireworks. Plus, we get Lions at the Packers, which you know is going to be physical.
Actually, speaking of listener engagement, we got some great questions on our social media this week. Tommy from Philadelphia asks, do you think the Eagles' offense is better than last year? And honestly, Tommy, it's one game, but that mobility and experience Saquon and Jalen brings, you can't teach that. They seem to see holes that other backs and QBs don't see, and Saquon's catching ability gives Hurts another reliable target. So, better this year? Very possible.
I completely agree, Anthony. And Sarah from Dallas sent us this one. With this so-called moral victory, considering no one thought the boys were going to have a chance, do you think that Cowboys might be competitive this season after all? Ooh, Sarah's asking the tough questions. Look, I think it's too early to know, but as you said, they played a lot better than expected. New system, missing key players, but still gave the Eagles all they could handle. You have to believe there may be a little something there.
You know what this game really highlighted for me, though? We're seeing this trend across the league where running quarterbacks are just dominating these division games. Hurts with 2 rushing touchdowns. You've got Josh Allen doing his thing in Buffalo. Lamar Jackson's still a nightmare for defenses. It's like if you can't stop the quarterback from running, you're in trouble. Defensive coordinators are having to completely rethink how they approach these dual-threat guys.
Exactly. And what's crazy is that these quarterbacks aren't just running out of desperation anymore. They're making it part of their game plan from the jump. Like, Hurts knew he was going to run those touchdowns. It wasn't scrambling, it was designed plays. The Cowboys had to account for it, but they still couldn't stop it. That's the evolution of the position right there. If you're a defensive coordinator and you can't game plan for mobile quarterbacks, you're going to have a long season.
Let's talk coaching decisions for a minute, because there were some questionable calls in this game. Brian Schottenheimer's play calling in the red zone was interesting. They had multiple opportunities to punch it in, and they did just that. Very much different from the past few years, just pounding the rock with their running backs. Meanwhile, Nick Sirianni did just about the same. When they got close, they ran Hurts or handed it off to Saquon. Sometimes the best play call is the most obvious one, but still can't be stopped.
That's such a good point. I think the Eagles did a better job. You could see it in their time management. The Eagles controlled the clock better, especially in that second half. They knew they had the better running game, so they just kept pounding away, keeping Dallas's offense off the field. Schottenheimer might be overthinking things, like you've got talented skill position players, but sometimes you just need to trust your athletes to make plays instead of trying to scheme everyone open.
You know what? We can't talk about Eagles-Cowboys without mentioning the history here. This rivalry goes back decades, and games like this are exactly why it's one of the best in sports. The passion, the intensity, the fact that both fan bases absolutely despise each other, that all showed up tonight. And when you add in the stakes of a season opener in the toughest division in football, it just amplifies everything. These teams know each other so well that it often comes down to who makes fewer mistakes.
And what I love about this rivalry is how it brings out the best and worst in both teams. Like that Jalen Carter ejection, that only happens in a game with this much emotional intensity. Players get so amped up for these divisional matchups that sometimes they lose their cool. But it also brings out incredible performances, like what we saw from Hurts and Saquon tonight. These guys know that winning this game sets the tone for the entire season in the NFC East.
Let's dive into some of the numbers that maybe got overlooked in all the excitement. Jake Elliott's 58-yard field goal, that ties his career long, and he nailed it after sitting around for over an hour during that weather delay. That's mental toughness right there. And can we appreciate Jalen Hurts' efficiency? He didn't throw for huge numbers, but he protected the football and made smart decisions all night. 0 interceptions against a divisional rival.
And here's a stat that blew my mind. The Eagles ran for over 170 yards as a team. Okay, mostly from Hurts, but still, that's dominating the line of scrimmage, especially when you consider they were playing without their starting center for part of the game. Plus, their time of possession was almost 8 minutes more than Dallas. That's not flashy, but that's how you win football games. You control the clock, you control the game. Dallas had talent, but Philadelphia had the better game plan and execution.
Looking at the bigger picture, this game tells us a lot about where both teams stand as championship contenders. The Eagles showed they can win ugly when they need to. That weather delay, losing Carter, all the adversity they faced. Champions find ways to overcome that stuff. They've got the running game to control clock. They've got a quarterback who can make plays with his legs. And their defense bent, but didn't break when it mattered most.
For Dallas, though, this has to be encouraging if you're a Cowboys fan. New coaching staff, missing your best defensive player, and your franchise quarterback throwing dimes. Those are things that should give hope for at least an entertaining season. Don't get me wrong, it's week 1. Anything can happen. But the margin for error in the NFC is so small this year. Every divisional game matters even more. All right, everybody, that's our breakdown of this absolutely wild Eagles-Cowboys opener. Make sure you subscribe, leave us a review, and let us know what was your biggest takeaway from this game.
And we'll be back soon with more Did You See That Game? I'm Anthony.
I'm Chiffon, and we'll catch you next time. Peace out.
Nah, for real. Let's talk about it. Late night highlight plays on freeze frame, crossover so sick. Ankles need a cane, home runs crack, echo through the park. Hustle on the field, leaving rivals in the dark.